Would you rather live in a home or a hotel? It's a weird thing. The older I get, the luckier I feel. And that's not because I'm getting older. Let me tell you, there's very few advantages in being old and getting older. Very few. But I'll tell you why I feel luckier and luckier. It's because I grew up in an Ireland that was a home. And now, increasingly, day by day, week by week, month by month, I feel like I'm living in an Ireland that has shifted and become little more than a hotel. It used to be a home, a friendly place, a cosy place, a place where you felt comfortable, surrounded by people who were family. Now it's increasingly becoming a disjointed, fragmented, disorientating malaise. I, as a born and bred Irish person, feel increasingly like a stranger in my own land, in my own town, in my own county. I increasingly feel like I'm the odd one out. Very often these days, it's becoming more and more normal for me to be in a place, could be a shop, could be a street, could be an office, could be any place really, where I'm the only Irish person. In fact, sometimes I'm the only English speaker. And that's in my own country, in my own hometown. And I don't live in a big city. And that's very disorientating. It's like that feeling you get when you're on holidays. When you just shrug and you say, well, I'm on holidays. It's, that's how it is. That's how it goes. I'm surrounded by people who speak a different language and have different customs or whatever. But now I experience that feeling, and then a shock hits me. I'm not on holidays. I'm at home. I'm at home, and I sometimes look around me, and I'm the only Irish person there. I might even be the only person speaking English there as a first language. That's the feeling you get in a hotel. A home is a different place. It's got a different dynamic, different vibe. It's a place of warmth. It's a place of familiarity. A hotel is an impersonal place. You don't know who's in the next room. You don't know the people who are in the lobby. You don't know who steps into the lift with you. That's a hotel. That's what a hotel is. You don't think anything of it. It serves a purpose. But a home is a whole different thing. Ireland used to be renowned for being a place of uniqueness, a unique culture, a unique people, a unique dynamic to the whole way of life. People loved coming here. It was their selling point. You came to Ireland to have the crack. It didn't mean you smoked crack. It's an Irish thing. If you know, you know. So we had that in spades. Now, probably we didn't appreciate it. You never, as Joni Mitchell famously sang, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And it's pretty much gone now at this stage. I was in Dublin recently. I lived in Dublin for over 20 years. And a wonderful time and wonderful place and wonderful people. And I was there recently, and I was in O'Connell Street. And I could have been in Berlin. I could have been in Manchester. I could have been in Oslo. It didn't... Apart from the buildings, it was just a foreign city. It just wasn't Dublin. And that's happened in a few years, in the blink of an eye. Ireland used to be a country that had an economy. Ireland today is just an economy that has a country attached. And that's what they've built. Our politicians have created a society that's fragmented, impersonal, has no character and has no soul. All the things we Irish used to be world famous for. When the birth rate started to taper off and then decline and then collapse, the political class, who are not that bright to begin with, panicked. They panicked because previous governments down through the ages have promised things to future generations, massive things, great things, expensive things that they knew they would never have to be there to fund. They'd be long gone when the bills came due. And it was all predicated on the fact of always having enough young people to feed into the furnace, into the fire, the furnace of the economy. And in fact, in Irish terms, our problem was always that we had too many children. We had more than enough. That's why we exported them. It was far too many in most olden times for the economy we had. Now, it was never envisaged that there would come a day, a time, a year, or a decade where there would be the opposite problem. We wouldn't have enough young people to feed into the forest, to fuel the fire. And that's exactly what happened. There was often discussions about 20 years ago, thereabouts, on pretty much every panel show that you would tune into on radio, TV. At some point in the discussion, the topic of the pension time bomb would be discussed. So basically what they meant was there was ongoing social welfare benefits promised that now, with the current decline in birth rate and the current decline in the workforce, the young workforce, they couldn't be funded. We Irish, we built a massive welfare state. Massive. But as soon as the birth rate started to taper off, the maths didn't work anymore. The numbers just didn't add up. We couldn't pay for it. So what did the politicians do? Well, one option would be to go back to brass tacks and figure out, well, okay, how can we stabilise the situation? We need to have a proper adult conversation with the people about how we're going to work through this. What's wrong with society? Why is it going this way? And how can we possibly nudge it in the other way? And the other option, which is the one they chose, was the easy option. The other option was mass immigration. Just hoover in people from everywhere and anywhere, and that'll solve the problem. Why make babies when you can import people? Fully grown, you don't even have to educate them. You don't have to do anything. They just arrive and you can immediately put them in a factory or a shop or a nail bar. And if you know anything about politicians, the modern sort, they will always choose the easy option. But all you're doing is importing worker ants into a society that was once cohesive and coherent. You may solve one problem on the one hand, but you've got to sacrifice something else on the other hand. And what they sacrificed was Ireland as a unique, cohesive society, a family. But they didn't care because it all became about the economy. The economy was the only game in town. As Bill Clinton famously said, it's the economy, stupid. And the Irish political class bought that line, hook, line and sinker. It was all about the economy, and it still is all just about the economy. They don't care about the community. They don't care about the society. If society has to become more dangerous, that's a price they're willing to pay. If society has to become more fragmented, you don't know who your neighbours are, you don't know who's on the street you're walking on, where they're from, what their culture is, what they're capable of, then that's a price they've decided they're willing to pay, as long as the numbers come up. They think they found the silver bullet. They think they found the panacea. Mass immigration. Artificially pump up the population like blowing up a balloon. The only problem with that is that most people, Irish native-born people, Irish people who are from generation upon generation of Irish people, wedded to the soil, blood in the soil, have come from the soil and will go back to the soil, don't like it, didn't want it, and were never asked about it. That's why I feel increasingly lucky to be old, because at least I got to see it, I got to live it, I got to experience it. I was there when Ireland really was Ireland. And even as much as I want to believe it, even as much as I want to be positive, even as much as I want to be hopeful that it can turn around. The inescapable fact is that the Irish, give or take, are about 4 million. It ebbs and flows with immigration and emigration. Some Irish people move abroad, some come back, some go away. 4 million people, it's now 5.3. We are hoovering in people at a rate of thousands every month as Irish young people leave to go to Australia, the US and various other places in the world. Highly educated, highly talented. They can no longer live here. Many of them don't want to live here. It's just not the same. And I understand that. I think what it boils down to is simply this. I see my nation, my country, my people, as an extension of my own home. My home, I decide who comes in, I decide who I allow in, and it feels like a friendly, cosy, warm, happy place. My country is an extension of that. My nation is an extension of that. The people pushing the current agenda don't see that connection. They would quite happily live in a gated community where they will decide who comes anywhere near their home or into their garden or even to the front door. But they'll allow everybody and anybody to waltz into the country with no restrictions. That's the difference between them and me, quite possibly you. I make no distinction. My country is as valuable as my home because it is my home. It seems to me that our entire way of life, our entire future is being crafted and determined by people who don't live here, by people outside of here, with no regard for us, the people who actually do live here. There's a thin veneer of democracy, but it's thin, and more people are realizing that it is a veneer. It's not real. And I think our political elites and the people who control them don't even trust our own armed forces. They're worried that they might be a little bit too patriotic and wedded to the idea of Ireland. That's why they've imported a whole army who dwarfs our own army, people who aren't at all patriotic, people who aren't at all wedded to the idea of Ireland, people who would do whatever they're paid to do. And they are importing these young, fighting-aged men on an industrial scale. Every fibre of my being wishes this will end well, but every fibre of my being fears that it won't.